Good evening, Crime Crunchies. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight. I am your host, Courtney C., a 27-year veteran of the media, and I am so happy to now be able to bring you Crime Crunchies. Happy Monday. Ooh, 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 ooh. A happy Monday. Ooh, 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 ooh. Hey, guess what? I get a lot of people who email me, and you know what? They email me a lot of their ideas. And I mean, they're really, really good. But occasionally I'll get an idea and I'll go, you know what? That has like not just meat, because they all have meat. This one has like a mammoth. It's like really juicy, meaty. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to share this. I'm so going to share this. I have to. But let me first just say very quickly thank you so much to Kim Whelan, our newest member. She's a cool kid. She is a cool kid. Hello, everybody. Hey, Lisa. I'm so happy to see you, Lisa. Good evening, Lisa. I would like everybody to thank Lisa, our lovely mod. She is with Crime After Dark HQ. Check out her channel, give her a sub, and down below in the description, there's a link for you to buy her a coffee. She would love to drink coffee every single day of her life. I love it. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Hey, J Dub. Hey, Lisa. Hello, Vicky. All right. Hey, Maxie Doodle. Maxie Doodle rhymes with poodle. All right. So let me get into this. Hey, Poppy. Hey, Vicky. I am really excited. Hey, Cindy Lou girl. Charmaine. Hello, everybody. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Okay. And you know what this is. This is your opportunity. If you have not subscribed, this is the time for you to do the right thing. Okay. Please subscribe. Please hit the bell so that you're notified when I go live. And please hit the like button. Yesterday, for people who did not hit the like button, I stole their peanut butter sandwiches out of their rat claws. And you don't want me stealing your peanut butter out of your rat claws, your peanut butter sandwiches. No. So please subscribe. It's free. And you'll be a cool kid. So cool. All right. So again, getting back to an anonymous viewer who has asked to remain anonymous. And I love her for that. She's mysterious. But this is what she sent me, and I plugged it into Chat GPT. We're going to talk about it. So this is what a viewer sent to me, Chad. Can you please review what they wrote and let me know if there are any documented cases that match any of the points? So here it is. Please keep my name confidential. Ahoy, Captain. Done. Check, check. So the message is I follow true crime and my background is hospice nursing, long-term care, and most recently I am retired from working as a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I have over 35 years experience in healthcare and have encountered suspicious cases of mercy killing when working as home health RN. I would like to share a theory about the Nancy Guthrie case as a potential mercy killing / voluntary euthanasia. And you know what? It could be. And I honestly respect that. If that is what her choice is, I absolutely respect that. And let's talk about it. A few observations stand out to me in this case that are similar to profiles and case studies of euthanasia cases. I'm trying to separate my experience versus data. I'm emailing you background information, data if you're interested. I think this is worth analyzing and reflecting upon. Again, this is a theory only. Cases go unreported and are carried out in secrecy. It occurred, so this is what happens is a mercy killing or a voluntary euthanasia. Number one, it occurred after a landmark birthday. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I have a person who'll go unnameless in the house who was cooking with chili. And now I'm coughing. So rude. I'm allergic to spicy. All right. So it occurred after a landmark birthday and it had just been her 84th birthday. Number 2, NG was in severe pain, allegedly irreversible cardiac disease. So that kind of thing can make people just sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? Number 3, NG was extremely independent and lived in the same home where she raised her family. Was she at a point of experiencing severe pain and facing the possibility of losing her independence? And we spoke about that on our, is living assisted living coming up. Okay. Number 4, when there is a prearranged last wishes communicated with a caregiver, there is often a family member that is not in agreement. And sure, when you've got 3 siblings, 3 different personalities, absolutely. Number 5, SG is a Christian, and mercy killings are not part of the biblical Christian belief system, nor is self-unaliving. But some denominations are more liberal and see it as situational. Number 6, this could explain how the brother arrived before SG and was in agreement with the plan. And, we're wondering why and how Cameron got there earlier. Maybe he and Annie were feeling different. And this, again, is all speculation. I really have to give a huge disclaimer because we're going way out of the lines on this one. But it's a real thing that does happen. And I promised you all I was going to look at everything, okay? And we're going to look at everything. We're keeping an open mind. We're going to go through it. If we debunk it, we'll just move it over, okay? It doesn't mean this is what it is. This is all speculation. This is for entertainment purposes. This is not anyone's opinion. We're going to look at voluntary euthanasia, okay? So I just want to make sure that's very clear up front. Yes, speculation only. And we're just going through a theory that's very real. People look at this stuff. This could explain, number 6, this could explain how the brother arrived before SG and was in agreement with the plan. Number 7, could explain the desired privacy and silence of church friends in the community that knows her. Number 8, could SG deep down feel this was a possibility, and that is why her response and communication with the alleged perpetrator seems personal, and she's telling them it's okay to come forward. So, and I do get in, hey, Major Rammer Jammer, Major Rammer Jammer, woo, party. The party just got into the house. The Crime Crunchy Lair party just started. All right, so I am going to ask about how Porch Guy is going to fall into this. So if you're already saying, okay, there's no way that this is, a voluntary euthanasia, and most likely it was not, but here's the thing, we don't know, okay? And so we will be looking at how Porch Guy could have been a part of a plan, all right? So Chad says, yes, I went through the viewer's theory point by point and compared it with documented mercy killing, assisted death, caregiver homicide, and older adult homicide-suicide cases. There are some, and I can't say the S word because YouTube will strike me on that. So there are some genuine parallels in the literature, particularly around chronic suffering, fear of institutionalization or loss of independence, caregiving relationships, and prior discussions about. But there is an important dividing line. Those parallels do not currently provide evidence that Nancy Guthrie's disappearance was a mercy or voluntary. In fact, several known facts create substantial problems for that theory. And again, chances are it is not, but I promise you guys, we're all going to look at everything. We're going to have an open mind. And look at this. Hey, Just Suze. Thank you so much for becoming a member. You are so awesome. You're going to be a cool kid. Yeah. All right. So what the viewer is picking up on, the strongest part of the viewer's message is not the specific accusation. It's a broader behavioral question. Could an older person suffering from chronic pain, facing declining independence, ever participate or request a plan to end their life with assistance from someone close to them? The answer is yes. Documented cases exist. For example, in Arizona, 86-year-old George Sanders his wife, Virginia, in 2012. According to the case, Virginia's health had deteriorated. She had gangrene in her foot, faced hospitalization and then a nursing home, and reportedly begged her husband to off her. Sanders told investigators she feared being left dependent on others. Prosecutors ultimately permitted him to plead guilty to manslaughter and what both sides described as a mercy killing. And, we put our animals down Saturday night. Unfortunately, I had to go with my son, and, he is married and has children and they have pets, and he had to put his black lab down. It's the first pet he's had to put down as an adult. And it freaking sucks, even being a grandma to the dog. And if they let us do that to pets, I don't understand why they don't let humans be able to choose something like that with dignity if they meet, a threshold. And of course, religion, if somebody is religious, that of course needs to come into play. But if there is an individual who is in a bad way, they're not going to get better. And this is something that's available. The Netherlands, I personally, I don't have a problem with it. I've told my kids, if I can't take care of myself, I do not want to be a burden to them. I don't want to be a burden to them. And I would much rather do this and arrange it and just be peaceful. But that's personal choice. I'm not advocating either way, but it does happen. It maybe is getting a bigger conversation. And while I don't think it's what happened with Nancy, we don't know. So we're going to look at it. We're going to continue. Another documented case involved 84-year-old Raymond Boldstridge in England. His wife had advanced Alzheimer's, was immobile, and required extensive assistance from caregivers. He was prosecuted after attempting to end her life. Again, severe deterioration and dependency were central to the circumstances. If she's immobile, requires extensive assistance, is in her 80s and has Alzheimer's and doesn't know, and if that's what she wanted, I'm so excited, Jess Sears. Yay, Sears. It's so good to see you. All right. This isn't confined to anecdotes. A study examining 225 later life homicide / self-unaliving events involving people 6 years older found the illness was mentioned in more than half. However, the researchers found that genuine self-unaliving pacts and mercy killings were very rare, and specifically cautioned investigators against assuming that a killing was consensual simply because illness was present. And that I could see is the biggest problem. Is there, cops aren't going to know. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now you're in for it. Now you're in for it. Major Rammer Jammer. He's going to take your peanut butter sandwich. Savannah herself publicly said she lives in constant pain. She also described Nancy's heart as fragile and said she required medication both to survive and to avoid suffering. Dispatch information also identified high blood pressure, cardiac issues, and a pacemaker. So I would score the viewers. Point number 2 is partially supported with one correction. I would not say that Nancy had documented irreversible cardiac disease unless a medical record. Okay, Chad doesn't like to assume, whatever. So the independence issue is genuinely interesting in the literature. And we all know that she'd lived in her home her entire life. Her children were raised there. I just can't see her wanting to go anywhere else. And that's, I will die on that mountain. I really don't think, even just set aside from all of this trauma and drama, I really don't think that she would have been happy anywhere else and wanted to keep her independence and live in her home as long as she could. There are documented cases in which older adults regarded institutionalization, loss of autonomy, or becoming dependent upon caregivers as intolerable. The Sanders case is almost textbook in that regard. Virginia reportedly did not want hospitalization, followed by nursing home placement, and feared becoming dependent upon others. All right. Of course, we don't have any evidence that she expressed this. And again, it's not likely, but we haven't talked about it. We're gonna. So Cameron arriving before Savannah doesn't establish participation. Of course it doesn't. He could have been there for some other reason, but we are all wondering how he got there. Oh, yes. So more importantly, Savannah's description of Cameron's reaction actually points in another direction. She recalled that once they realized something terrible had happened, her brother immediately considered kidnapping for ransom. But I posit this. What if Cameron was in on it with Annie and, say theoretically, if this was the mother's wish and he went there to participate, that could be something that they did to cover it up so that nobody, and you know what? I don't know. I don't know why she would put the family in this position, but everybody has different dynamics, different conversations, different tolerances. We just don't know. And apparently people do it. And again, I've talked with my kids. I would much rather do that. What is this? What is this? I know this person. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. I know who you are. That is a new member. Thank you so much. Sneaky. Okay, the silence of Nancy's friend is real but highly ambiguous. Point number 7 is interesting because the underlying observation appears to be factual. Brian Enton reported hearing from several people that the Guthrie family had asked Nancy's close friends to keep matters private. He also offered another possible explanation. People in Tucson remained nervous because whoever committed the crime had not been identified. And that's just the facts, ma'am. And I agree. If I lived in that neighborhood, I would be afraid too, even after stupid Underoos Nano's britches had come out and said, "Oh yes, he's still on the loose, everyone. He's still on the loose." And it's going to be 50 years before we solve this. So this guy's going to be running around for 50 years. And there's hundreds of thousands of hours of video and thousands of cars. So, fact, friends have been unusually quiet, and we know why that is. It's because they were told to shut their yap traps. The euthanasia theory provides one conceivable explanation, but there are many simpler ones. Law enforcement advice, fear of interfering with the investigation, concern about ransom negotiations, blah, 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 blah. I want to get into the rest of my note. Yes, we know the timeline. We have it all memorized. So how I'd score the viewers 8 observations. Point, the landmark birthday. Birthday timing may be factual because it had been just her birthday, but it's still evidentiary, is still very weak. Severe and chronic pain. Yes, she had it. She did have chronic pain. Interesting, but non-specific. Fear of losing independence. Yes, documented in other cases and potential parallel. I could suspect that she would, for sure. Family disagreement over end of life wishes. It can occur and it's speculative. Religious disagreement. We're guessing that she probably would not have gone along with this plan because Catholics are not going to have anything to do with that. For sure. So again, we probably can debunk this even just based on her Catholicism. My mother was a Catholic and there's no way she would have done anything like that. Brother's early arrival is no demonstrated connection. We don't know why he was there before Savannah, even though we've looked into it and we've looked at flights. I looked at flights to try to figure out how he could have beat her from Vermont. And she's coming from New York. Savannah's compassionate appeals, common in hostage situations. It's very ambiguous. So I wouldn't dismiss what your viewer sent you. Her healthcare background led her to recognize a real phenomenon: chronic pain plus declining autonomy plus fear of institutionalization and discussions about death can appear in documented assisted death and so-called mercy killing cases. But I would separate that from her conclusion about the Guthrie family. So, was Nancy assisted by her family? There isn't any evidence, nor will there probably ever be any evidence, but um, it does happen. And, this person specifically does talk about situations that they've seen. And this is why it was brought up, because she does have 35 years in, hospice nursing and psychiatry as well with elder patients. And so obviously this is something that she's seen. So here's a follow-up note from the viewer. We emailed back and forth a few times. So I asked Chad, can you analyze this and let me know if there are any other documented cases? And I went on, I have heard nothing similar to a porch guy scenario cover up. However, because of the visibility of SG and the importance of image for careers and family privacy, I think a staged kidnapping scenario is plausible. I don't think the kidnapping for ransom is real, but the staging of it is possible. So this is the caregiver speaking. I recall a high profile family patient had ALS, and they had a plan: if X, Y, and Z occur, these are my wishes that I want carried out. For instance, a trigger situation is identified by the involved family members, and when the time comes and we are consulting with a hospice service, I agree to sign the documents. That is when I want the euthanasia to occur. From the family perspective, it protects family members who would never agree to it, and only the involved family members are aware. However, the more people involved, the less likely it can be kept private over time. Removing the body eliminates the possibility of toxicology, autopsy reports, etc. So, part of the whole thing of having the body removed is no one is checking their blood. There's no autopsy. There's really no way of proving what happened. So the viewer goes on. She says, I know or they, I don't know if it's a she, they go on. I know for a fact that many of these types of cases go undetected, are never reported. So there is very little data to make comparisons. Mercy type killings are a taboo in our culture. It's so personal and a topic many are uncomfortable to discuss. And I don't even know that I would consider it a mercy killing. It seems like a voluntary. I like maybe voluntary euthanasia. I feel like is better because it's not really a killing. A lot of times I think Oregon allows you to do it. And again, you have to be at a certain threshold, but I think that there is, I watched a documentary where somebody actually did it. And so they had a packet that they had to mix in a drink, and they stirred it up, and the person had to drink it quickly, like within a minute. They had to drink the whole thing in a minute. And then that relaxed them. And then they had to wait a certain amount of time. And then they had to drink something, another second thing. And then that's what stopped the heart. And these people actually documented, I think it was their older father who actually did this. It was very painless. I mean, he was relaxed. He drank 2 drinks and he was just gone. It was just done. And I think the hardest part of this was actually him sitting up and actually drinking it, because he had to physically hold the cup. They couldn't administer it. They mixed it, but then they had to hold the cup, and he had a straw, and he had to actually administer everything himself. And that was the hardest part, because he had trouble actually holding it and then drinking. And I'm not suggesting this for anybody. I'm talking about the subject. So this is all speculation. No one's accusing anybody. I'm talking about the subject because it's a real thing. So everybody simmer down, simmer down. We're just looking at a topic. Nobody's accusing anybody. We're just looking at something, and somebody sent this in to me, and there are a lot of people that have situations, and I think that we need to respect people's opinions. Hello, Ward and June, and I would like to read this to everybody because I have touched on this briefly for everybody. Okay, so Ward and June is a longtime viewer, and he has emailed me, or I'm not sure if it's a he, they, I should say they have emailed me, and they have mentioned Savannah Guthrie in her memoir talked about the family kidnapping game where the aunt would come and take the kids and they'd load up in the back seat of the station wagon and they'd traipse off north up toward Phoenix, and they'd stop and they'd use the payphone and they'd call their mom and say, "Oh no, Aunt so and so kidnapped us. Help, help." And Nancy would say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, kiddos. Oh, I guess I'll just have to wait for you guys to get back home, or I'll have to find you later," or whatever it was. Okay. And so Warden June has emailed me that what if this was a kidnapping game? And Warden June, if you wouldn't mind, email me with a little bit more about how they would have played this out, because I'm only assuming what you were meaning. But if they were pretending to kidnap Nancy and maybe something went wrong and it was supposed to be a game and maybe an accident happened. So, I mean, everybody has felt that whole kidnapping thing when they were little is just weird. Okay. Not that it's weird, because it probably was really fun for the kids to have that happen, but it's just weird and ironic is what I should say, that it has happened now. So if you can email me and flesh out a little bit more about what you're thinking about how that would actually happen, I absolutely will cover it. And I've touched on it before, but you're right. I need to really talk about that because it sticks out, right? It sticks out. So thank you very much for highlighting it again today. I don't mean to ignore. Let's see. I think the whole family is involved in intelligence agencies, including Nancy's late husband. Well, that's very right. You know what, Rammer Jammer? Bigfoot. You know what I call Bigfoot? The abdominal snowman. So again, this is probably one of those things that's out there. And yes, this is a great comment. She could have traveled to a country that allows it. And there are even states that do. So, and this is a great comment. What about the video taken 2 weeks prior? That wouldn't go with something happening the same night. No, it wouldn't. And the thing is again, I think that this is definitely going on the fringe of what could actually be possible. But I had promised everybody that I would look at everything. And there are people that do this. I don't think this is what happened, but I have to have an open mind. And next week, if we get more evidence, I mean, I could completely swerve and go another way from what we've been looking at as far as, an inner circle is what we're kind of where we're kind of at right now. But we're going to have an open mind. And this is not even speculation, really. This is just discussing a topic that people be talking more and more. And I think people should be able to make choices about themselves. I can't imagine being somebody who's, has Alzheimer's and is trapped inside their body with pain and are immobile, have no quality of life, have trouble eating. I mean, that is horrible. And people that are in extreme pain, having to live out years trapped in a body like that. I think it's inhumane. And again, I'm not suggesting this for anybody. This is not me saying that they've done this or even considered this. Okay, thank you. So this is still the viewer talking about her or their experience. Again, I don't know, male or female. Can't tell with handles. You can't tell. So people will go to great lengths to maintain the confidentiality of this type of situation to protect their image, reputation, privacy, and legacy. Assisting end of life euthanasia issues can be done out of compassion, not always from a malicious intent. And that's exactly right. For the right person, this could be done out of compassion. And I mean, I think that we've definitely are debunking this, because Savannah wouldn't be talking so much to somebody writing ransom notes. And in this case, if this was an end of life plan, then somebody would clearly be taking advantage of the situation by sending in these bunk notes. And I just don't know. I'm not sure. This is why I'm not sure how somebody with an end of life plan. I could see maybe 2 of the 3 children agreeing to honor their wishes. I don't think, with Nancy being Catholic, that she would have gone along with anything like this, just from what I've seen, with religious beliefs, absolutely. But if this is something that she had planned, I could see 2 of 3 children agreeing with it. Maybe it was something that was, mentioned, and I'm just speculating here. If this was something that 2 kids, if all 3 kids had discussed with her, and, say Savannah had, just said, "Oh no, this is nuts. I'm not even thinking about this," and just poo-pooed the whole thing and went away, then it could be that maybe Nancy felt more comfortable talking to Annie and Cam about it. And they, if they were more open to it. I know Annie being more, liberal, as far as, if she's a Wiccan, okay, and, doing community outreach, she may be more sympathetic to somebody wanting to make this choice. And yes, it probably is. So thank you for bearing with me. And, it's a Monday night show. I'm putting this in the lane like my Epstein episodes, because I looked at the Epstein case. People kept saying this was Epstein. They're linked to Epstein and blah, blah, blah. And so I spent 2 episodes talking about it. We completely debunked it. We crossed it off. We moved on. But again, I said I would look at everything, and we're going to. I'm not afraid of talking about anything. So looking at this, as far as image and the autopsy information, Chad says, yes, this follow-up makes the viewer's hypothesis more specific, and I found several documented cases and studies that overlap with pieces of what she is describing. I did not, however, find a documented case closely matching the entire proposed scenario. A family-assisted mercy followed by removing the body, manufacturing an abduction, introducing a masked intruder, and creating a false ransom plot to prevent discovery of the death. That distinction is important, okay? And yeah, this is really way out there. Just looking at all of that, it sounds ludicrous. Again, I'm not even opining that. We're just talking about it because people have done this. Okay. I'm not seriously saying this. We're talking about it. All right. So, what I did find gets interesting. So, number one, there are cases where a patient's previously expressed wishes become central. A viewer's description of an ALS patient immediately made me think of Thomas Yoke. I'm not sure. Yoke, I'll just pronounce it Yoke. Yoke was 52 and had advanced ALS. Dr. Jack Kevorkian met with Uke and discussed his condition and wishes. Remember the Kevorkian van, right? Kevorkian subsequently administered the drugs that caused Uke's unaliving. Importantly, Uke's wife and brother were involved in the surrounding circumstances, and the interactions were videotaped. Kevorkian was ultimately convicted of second-degree murder. This isn't a secret family conspiracy. In fact, Kevorkian deliberately made it public, but it demonstrates something relevant to your viewer's argument. A severely ill person can communicate a future desire to die. Relatives can know about it, and someone else can ultimately perform the act. There are also documented situations involving families who believed they had made promises to loved ones about circumstances under which the loved one would not want to continue living. We've got DNR, do not resuscitate. It's kind of that is that, but people do make that decision. Don't bring me back. Don't put the whoop on me. Just let me go. If it's my time, it's my time, right? And that's normal. There's no taboo around that, right? I just don't think that there should be taboo around if we're able to euthanize pets. Again, if we can euthanize a pet who's struggling and is old and isn't going to get better and it's humane and painless, why can't humans do that? So, a fascinating peer-reviewed study interviewed relatives of patients in vegetative or minimally conscious states. One family member described having contemplated assisting her mother. Another described actually planning an assisting because she believed she had promised the patient that he wouldn't be forced to live in that condition. She even experimented with medical equipment to determine whether alarms would sound, although she ultimately didn't carry out the plan. That is remarkably close to the psychological structure your viewer describes. Prior wishes equals trigger conditions occur equals relative believes they have an obligation to honor the promise. It doesn't establish anything about Nancy, but the phenomenon itself is documented. Number two, there are cases involving multiple family members knowing about the plan. This is another part of the viewer's email that isn't purely hypothetical. In 1985, California case involving a seriously ill man, William Golden, authorities alleged that several relatives participated in withholding his heart medication. Golden had reportedly made statements expressing that he wanted his suffering to end. His nephew, a medical aide, later told police that he injected Golden with morphine and digoxin. And here's the particularly relevant part. According to the police account reported at the time, multiple members of the family knew about at least some of what was occurring. The secret didn't remain secret. The nephew reportedly began drinking and missed work afterward. His supervisor confronted him and he confessed that he had assisted his uncle. Authorities were contacted, the body was exhumed, and forensic testing followed. And see, this is why if the body was just disappeared, there can't be an exhumation. There's no autopsy. That actually supports one of the strongest observation in your viewer's email. The more people involved, the less likely it can be kept private over time. From an investigative standpoint, that's far stronger than the idea that families are routinely able to keep something like this hidden indefinitely. Andrea's thoughts. This is her message here. Hello, Crime Crunchies. Until you see somebody with bone cancer for chronic pain that is so horrific and watch that person suffer 4 months, days, years, a lot of you would change your thoughts on this. And you know what? Bless you. If that was me, take me to Kevorkian's van. That's my opinion. There's no quality of life, and honestly, that would be horrible for my children to have to watch me go through that. I would not wish that. So thank you so much for sharing and for being vulnerable with that comment. Oh my gosh. Andrea continues, I went through it with my mom and then my sister. Bless you. Thank you for sharing that. I hate seeing anyone in pain. Thank you for sharing, you guys. Eerie girl. Yes, at Andrea's thoughts, my father had bone cancer and would cry from pain. He was a very strong man until cancer. Thank you for sharing that. And I knew that this might be controversial. Yeah, I get it. So number 3, I found a striking modern forensic case involving an elderly woman. A 2025 Journal of Forensic Sciences case report examined the death of a 72-year-old woman with multiple chronic illnesses. Her grandson administered alprazolam and then injected her with heroin in what researchers classified as a mercy assistance. But forensic examination discovered an injection site and other injuries. Toxicology then identified heroin metabolites and helped establish what had happened. The body is what solved the mystery. So your viewer is correct about something important in a purely forensic sense. No body means no conventional autopsy. And here's another case. Melvin Seifert, 79. He suffered from Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, emphysema, and heart disease. His wife and physician came under investigation for a suspected assistance. An autopsy found that a powerful sedative contributed to his death, with toxicology showing a substantially elevated level. The medical examiner classified the death as homicide, although the legal implications were more complicated. So mercy killing can also disguise something much darker. Research on older women homicide warns against assuming that illness means a homicide was compassionate or consensual. Exactly. And this is, I'm not even going to go down that road because I think we can definitely cross this off. It's just something that I hadn't even, this is something I hadn't even really considered. And again, the staging with the kidnapping, it just does not fall in line with any of this. So number 7, her protecting uninvolved relatives concept is psychologically plausible, but not evidence. Okay, she's proposing that Nancy hypothetically could have told person A and person B, when X happens to me, this is what I want. But Nancy hypothetically doesn't tell person C because C would never approve. So it's psychologically possible, but there's just no way we're ever going to know. And again, it's fringe theory. There's also a terminology issue worth fixing. Your viewer uses voluntary euthanasia, mercy killing, hospice decisions, and end-of-life wishes somewhat interchangeably. They're not the same thing. Stopping unwanted life-sustaining treatment, that's the DNR, do not resuscitate. Executing an advance directive, choosing hospice care, receiving aggressive palliative pain relief, physician-assisted unaliving were legally authorized, assisted suicide or assisted unaliving, sorry YouTube, and another person intentionally causing someone's death are legally and medically very different things. Yes. So, where the expanded theory stands: chronic illness, pain, documented elsewhere, yes. Evidence concerning Nancy, it's verbally documented. And I'm not going to go through all of this because I think it's really just the same stuff. Chat GPT likes to repeat. Repeat. So I am going to say that, as predicted, I think we can check this off. But I think that we have talked about a hard subject. And I think that we've looked at the fact that there are some people who have gone this route with families, legally, and that perhaps it's getting to be a little bit more, I don't want to call it commonplace, because again, it's a very individual decision. But Netherlands, like you mentioned, somebody had mentioned before, the Netherlands are, people are going across. I know that in Oregon, people have done it there. More states are including things like this, and individual choice. So I'm going to bookend this conversation with, I am not suggesting that this is anything that Nancy had in place. I think that it's on the fringe, but I do think it's definitely worth looking at. I really do believe that Nancy would not have wanted to leave her home. I did cover that in an assisted living episode where, I really don't think she would have wanted to leave her home. But I think that the whole staging and porch guy, I think that it just kind of crosses out that anything like this has happened. And I don't know if anybody watched Patriot Pride last night, but they had a really good episode where they actually had done some experimenting with the blood and the cameras. But Mike actually was talking about, potentially, an accident happening, maybe an argument and an accident happening. And those are theories that, just like everything, because we just don't know what happened to Nancy at this time, we need to be open to looking at everything. We can't have our blinders on, Um, and we're going to continue looking at everything. I won't apologize for that. Um, Not at all, because, we're all adults, and I know that we all are invested in Nancy, and we wanna know what happened. And as we go along with these theories, if it seems like we're going to check it off, we're gonna check it off. I think we've completely checked this one off, but I appreciate everybody going along with the journey to me. Let me just look and see what the latest news is today. Okay, so I will, let me pull up my screen. We're going to take a look at some articles, okay? Let's look at some news, shall we? Let's. Okay, so we all know that there were some remains found miles from Nancy Guthrie home with no indication of connection to case so far, Sheriff's Department says. So I'm not going to spend time reading all of this, but I'm interested to see where they were found. So let me read this first part. Human remains have been found in a desert area near West Ajo Way and South La Cholla Boulevard in Arizona, approximately 15 miles from the home of Nancy Guthrie, according to Pima County Sheriff's Department. Authorities said there is no indication at this time that the remains, which appear to have been at the location for an extended period of time, are connected to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. On a hillside covered in saguaro cacti overlooking a busy 4-lane highway in southwest Tucson, Pima County Sheriff's Department deputies were seen at the reported location of the remains. All right. So that's where I was wondering. I thought I'd heard that they were in a wash, but apparently they're on a hillside. So far, they don't think it's her, which is interesting. Let's see. There was another one that I had. Oh, Flock CEO. This is what. So the founder, Flock CEO, the Flock cameras. CEO claims cameras could have solved Nancy Guthrie case, reports say. Well, we don't know if they've already got the cameras. Let me read this. So, Catalina Foothills, AZ, this is AZ Family, local station, local media. The CEO of Flock Safety, the license plate reader camera company facing scrutiny over officer misuse, says his technology could have cracked the high profile disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Quote, we would have solved that case, founder and CEO Garrett Langley told Vanity Fair, the magazine published on Friday. Quote, 100%. There's no doubt in my mind, unquote. Guthrie was last seen, blah, blah, blah. So Langley's comments come as Flock Safety finds itself at the center of a growing nationwide controversy. Several Arizona law enforcement agencies have suspended use of license plate reading cameras this month after discovering misuse among officers. 60 police departments across Arizona currently use Flock cameras. The company says the surge in reported misuse cases is a direct result of its own AI audit tool, which was rolled out in April. Interesting. Arizona's family reached out to the Pima County Sheriff's Department to ask whether the agency uses Flock safety cameras and whether the technology was part of the Nancy Guthrie investigation. I would hope that they would say, and is part of the Nancy Guthrie investigation. Isn't this part of the hundreds of thousands of hours of video that math nanos? He's a mathlete. That's what he is. Mathlete. Pima County Sheriff Department said it doesn't own or operate Flock cameras or any other license plate reader technology itself, but noted investigators can tap into that kind of technology in certain cases by coordinating with outside law enforcement agencies. Quote, investigators continue to utilize available technology and investigative resources in the ongoing effort to locate Nancy Guthrie. All right. So, how are officers misusing? How are officers misusing Flock cameras? Now I need to know. Inquiring minds. All right. So here's Arizona's family. Let's find out what are these bad boys doing? Why officers who misused Flock cameras could still be hired by other departments like our mathlete Nanos or his compadre who's changed his name. That's mysterious. All right. So Phoenix, AZ family, August 14th, 4 Valley police departments have acknowledged in the past week that officers misused license plate reader technology, also known as Flock safety cameras. What are they doing? 2 of those officers resigned, but according to the Arizona Peace Officer Standards and Training Board, resigning does not necessarily prevent them from working in law enforcement again. Chuck Miller, executive director of AZ Post, said a new agency would conduct a background check and any misconduct would surface unless you're hiring nanos. But the hiring decision would ultimately rest with that agency. All right. So what is the deal? Flock safety. What did they do? All right. Let's read. Here we go. Now we're going to get some juice. What did they do? Surprise, Arizona. Officer placed on leave as surprise pauses license plate. Oh my God. Scared me. Ooh. The city of Surprise is suspending its use of automated license plate readers and has placed an officer on leave after an audit uncovered potential misuse of the cameras. The city has launched an investigation Public trust, blah, 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 blah. I don't care about that. I want to know what happened. The technology is proven to be extremely valuable, blah, blah, blah. What happened? Okay, it was revealed Monday that an Apache Junction officer resigned after an internal investigation found he misused the flock system for personal use to track his wife. They're spying. On Tuesday, Goodyear announced that an officer was under investigation for possible misuse of the technology. Tempe police also recently announced the department stopped all data sharing from flock cameras after the community raised privacy concerns and amid reports that other cities misuse. So basically, it's like Big Brother is what it sounds like. And if you're a cop, let's see what he did. Let's find out what he was doing. Hi, Patriot Gold Group. All right, here we go. How it unfolded. All right. An Apache Junction police officer's alleged personal use of flock cameras ends in resignation as Arizona cities question the technology's reach. The former officer used the department's flock cameras to track down his wife, allegedly for a welfare check. Apache Junction Police Chief Michael Pooley said, "Oh, I'm sure that's what it was." How it unfolded. Let's get the truth. The officer asked Apache Junction Police Department dispatchers to run his wife's license plate on April 19th, Pooley said. Police said the dispatchers complied, but flagged their concerns about the use of the technology for personal use to a supervisor. Well, of course. Around the same time, the officer called the city of Casa Grande to report a welfare check on his wife, Pooley said. During a call with Casa Grande police, he revealed he had already used Apache Junction's flock cameras to track his wife's car to Casa Grande, Pooley said. Casa Grande PD immediately contacted Apache Junction. AJPD launched an internal investigation the next day and immediately placed the officer on administration leave. Apache Junction concluded its investigation 2 weeks ago, and the officer resigned shortly after. So when they blur the lines or they blur their judgment, regardless of what's going on in their personal lives, they have to speak for their actions and they have to be held accountable. Department employees are entrusted with systems containing sensitive information, and that access must only be used for legitimate and authorized. You really could, especially if you know somebody who broke up with you and they're dating someone new or they remarried and you're a cop, you could find anyone. Awesome. Well, it looks like you guys are having a conversation. I love that you guys are having a conversation. I know that this is probably not, what we talked about with, assisted, um, whatnot with Nancy. But let me know if you guys think this was at least worthwhile having a conversation about, because people are sharing a lot of opinions and ideas. And I love that we can be respectful of each other, and respect each other's opinions. We don't all have to agree, you know? And ultimately, this whole thing is a mess. And if it had been solved, we wouldn't be here. Ultimately, if law enforcement had solved this in the beginning and so many things hadn't been fumbled, we would not be here having this conversation, guys. Thank you, Poppy. I agree. And you know what? Again, we've checked it off. We can move on. But I can genuinely say, in my authentic, crime crunchy way, that I promised I would look at everything, and I am. And we're going to be respectful. And I thank everybody for being respectful today. So, some new things. I think it's a cover up. And I think that we all know that, statistics show it's going to be an inner circle person. And until we have any new information, um, we have to assume that that is what has happened to poor Nancy. It's going to be 1 year. Hey, Patriot Pride, thanks for coming by. I was just talking about your awesome show last night and how you were doing an experiment with the blood. And you know what? That was brilliant. If you guys have not watched Patriot Pride's show from last night, they were on super late. Please watch them tonight. And Mike has a great theory. I spoke about it a little bit earlier about how, this could have been an accident and, things happen. So please go and watch the episode from last night. It's amazing. Yeah, Adam, don't play. They literally they did their own experiment. They drew blood from a volunteer and they had it in a syringe and they squirted it on concrete, and then through a Ring camera, you can barely see it. And, because we've looked at porch guy coming on the porch and it just doesn't look like there's any blood on the front porch. But the thing is these cameras may not pick it up if it was there. And so, the whole idea is, is it the chicken before the egg? Is it the porch guy before the blood, or did he stage the blood because of the way he's walking? I mean, go watch the video. I think I fell asleep, so I need to watch the last quarter of it because I get sleepy. I sleep like a little princess. I go, hue, 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 like that. I'm just like a little bird. I'm like a little cooing dove. I'm just so sweet. You're welcome. You guys, it was really a good show. Everybody needs to go watch that show from Patriot Pride last night. Just do it, or I'm going to take your peanut butter sandwich out of your red claws. Yeah. All right. So a few new things is I am testing upload. So I do a live, and then some people do the replay crew. So what I am testing is for people who are members who hate the ads and are YouTube premium members. I'm downloading the video. I'm re-uploading it as a regular video, but I'm turning off the ads, and then it's an ad-free replay of this fun and adventure with no ads for my members. And so I've uploaded my last 2 videos ad-free for members. So I know it's more fun to do a live because you get to chat and you get my reaction, which is so important. All of you just sit at my feet and you just listen intently and you go, tell us, share your wisdom, Courtney C. from Crime Crunchies. Share your crunchy wisdom. And I do. But if you're on Replay Crew and you're a member and you don't have a YouTube premium account, you can go in and watch the ad free. Anyway, I'm testing it. If it's not worth it, I'm going to chop it off. Yeah. So it's a test. Also, guess who's on Spotify? I am. This girl. Me. I have videos on Spotify. I don't know if anyone's going to watch them. I don't know. But you know what? As many people that need to experience my weird needs to increase. The weirdness needs to increase. Yeah, and you can be there too, Patriot Pride. Yee! Woohoo! Woohoo! So yeah, I did create a Spotify channel. I have no idea if it's going to go. And I think it feeds, I have it set up so it'll feed over to Apple Podcasts. I don't know how that's going to go. We'll see how it goes. But making some announcements. So if you are a member, let me know if you like the replay with ad free. I want to make you happy, give you a little crunchy hug. All right. Well, I have gone over all of my very dramatic information tonight, and I appreciate everybody for hanging out with me. I know it's a Monday, and I like just hanging out because you guys are fun. You're like my only friends now. In February, it's going to be 1 year. And I don't know if YouTubers are going to do anything. That's what I'm wondering, if YouTubers are going to unite in February for Nancy. What? Word has it, Patriot Pride Barbecue, their sauces are addicting. Please use with caution. What? You know what else is addicting? The Major Rammer Jammer hoodie over on Thornbridge X. I want that hoodie. I want the Major Rammer Jammer mod hoodie that Thornbridge X has in their store. And here, I'm just rambling at this point, you guys. Just rambling. Yes. All right, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for stopping by and listening to me ramble. Thank you. I will debunk. I'm going to debunk. You can't stop me. I'm unstoppable. All right, you guys. I love my crunchies. I love my crunchies. I love my crunchies. I love my crunchies. All right, y'all. Have a good evening. Kiss and hug and love on your loved ones. Just do it. I will catch you on the flip side. Toodaloo.